he told me that you guys actually recast that. This is not made anymore anywhere.
Yeah, he said
specifically, but you can order it from different places. But you know, to have something that heavy shipped, you might as well just make it yourself.
This is more of a passion project than it is a flip. You know? I have flips; those are easy.
Yeah.
This is like I wanted to, add this to my resume, right? Yeah. I was going to box in these old round pillars so that they were more craftsman style, like down there.
Yeah.
So they're going to be boxed in.
That would not necessarily be appropriate for this house because it's before that period, and it is.
So what would be?
That style of column, only bigger.
Oh, okay.
And what you could do is take those off and build a base for them that is a square base, like a paneled box.
Yeah.
So like those are paneled.
Yep.
They have a recessed panel.
Like I don't have to change them.
Right.
I thought they weren't period, so that's why I was going to change them.
And the way it was before y'all started, I looked at them and I just thought these were stuck here. In fact, in those 1995 pictures,
they have a halfway box.
Yeah, they have the boxes still there.
Yeah.
And they probably had a box and a thicker column on top. So you wouldn't have any problem getting that done. You wouldn't be getting that passed through COA. I would just do it.
Okay.
And then let me show them those pictures, and Justin would be fine with that.
From this profile, the second thing that I'm struggling with is the vent, the peak in the peak. Obviously, there's just like chicken wire over it. I personally want to take it down, and then I was going to put the regular 105 siding up, but some sort of vent there. There's not many two-story vents in this neighborhood, so.
Well, as far as an attic vent, you can put a whirly thing on there. You could put it on the backside where you don't see it from the street.
Oh.
And that would vent. Okay. We have 2 of them on our house, and that would vent.
Because I did the whole roof without any vents, because that was like something I read. The way I read it was no whirly vents. So I did ridge vents.
There's actually, they're all over the neighborhood. They just don't want to see them on the front of the house.
I don't actually need that there because I have ridge vent there.
Right.
So I can.
What I would do there, first of all, that's an original detail of the house, and it would be be against the guidelines to take it off.
Okay.
But I was suggesting that if you even just for fun ran a wire up there and put a little low wattage LED light behind it, you could put glass in there, some kind of pretty piece of glass.
Okay.
And if you don't want to look through and see the framing, you could actually do that kind of glass that has the ripple effect in it, so you don't see through it. So anything like that would be fine.
Okay.
Those are actually, I think, I had columns, they're 8 at the top and 10 at the bottom. They do have a taper. Now this is allowed. Because they're short, you can use PVC. If you can't find a wood column, you can use a piece of PVC and paint it. There's a house where they did that. The short columns usually didn't taper. They're usually just the same width, top to bottom. And you can use, of course, that won't have the detail at the top, but you could create that detail with what's above it. You could stair step down the crown, and then put a piece of molding around it, do your short, fat piece of PVC about like that, then your box. But on the base, you'd have another base to the column and then the top to the base, which would be wider, so that would create a stair step effect there. You could do a little piece of cove in there too, and it looks great, so that's always a possibility.
On this side, you'll see that board above that window is actually the original board.
Right.
And you could tell that it was there at one point. Like
right. Yes. Yeah.
You could see where it was.
Yeah.
So
just take a picture of that and put it back, and I don't think you'll have any problem either way. But
so we're gonna put it back.
Yeah. Excellent.
So the whole house will have the crown. Casings
absolutely.
on it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
But yeah, you can see all this stone here, down and around, is all cast new.
I can't believe that he was able to do that.
Yeah.
To cast it. And
the mason that we use he's a special guy.
That's amazing.
Yeah. These aren't just bricked pillars. These are actually poured concrete posts through each. So that's 3 solid concrete cylinders going through each pillar. And then just deco brick.
That's a lot of
weight.
That's a lot of trouble to go to.
Yes.
Which most of these houses aren't. They're just a brick column.
Yeah. I mean, the foundation on this house, if you were to go under there, I have some photos from before. I mean, back in 1900s, they didn't have forms the way we have them now.
Right.
I mean, the concrete that they used underneath for the perimeter beam is just huge. I mean, it looked like they were building a bridge. It's insane how much concrete they used to support this house.
Well, it's a really good one.
So we took the house apart. Like I said, there's so many layers. We took the house apart and...
Oh, I'm looking down here too. This is kind of amazing. Wow.
Yeah, so you could see this ties in, and we're trying to sink this. We got to lift this a little bit to twist it.
Wow. Wow.
Then this is cast here.
Yep.
And then this is cast here. So it's just...
That I told Nick, I have never seen that cast with that molding. And that matches the crowns on the windows.
Yep.
And you only ever see a square cast.
Yep.
This is the first house that I know of that I visited in Fairmount where they've cast a molding into the design, which is, again, really special, really cool, very rare.
This 105 today is made with one bevel.
Right.
This entire house had a double bevel.
Right.
And
that's the early stuff.
And then someone went and feathered in the modern stuff somewhere along the way underneath the fiber siding.
And you guys replaced all that?
I went and we cut out, Danny went and we cut out a piece from one of the sides where it was. We gave them specific measurements, and then we bought them the blade, and they milled the siding for the rest of the house. And I put it on the garage to the same exact spec. So this is original. Everything that's on the front is original.
Yeah.
And then everything on the sides, well, most of it on the sides and the garage and on the back is all built to this specification.
It's great. There's only about a couple of dozen houses that have this on them in the neighborhood.
Well, this is now one of them, and hopefully the last.
And they remilled it and started using it again during the Depression.
Oh, wow.
And then again in the 50s, so it was always different. They call each one 105. They didn't change the name.
Yeah, because the 105 that's sold today just has one sunken bevel to the lower part, and this had this interesting double bevel.
And there's one where this actually looks more like a little
round
piece of quarter round.
Yes, yes. And Danny, when Danny was measuring it, it's, like most of the 105 is like 6 inches. And so but this one was like 5 3/4 or 5 1/2. Like it wasn't even a full 6-inch sheet. So the guys at the mill were like, "Are you sure about these specifications?" And no, he measured it 4 or 5 times to make sure that we gave them the right dimensions, and now it matches. So the entire house is now.
Well, it's really that's quite an expense y'all went to, and it was really wonderful.
I feel like
it's what I would do if I was redoing it.
Yeah,
but we never make any money. So I hope you guys will make money in the end. I'm sure you will, because the values are so much higher now. But I mean that's what I would do, and to see other people do what I would do makes me very happy.
This front door has been giving me such nightmares almost, because it's been destroyed and abused over the years.
Now, are we talking about the door itself?
Well, in a way, everything else is fine. Yeah. It's like this frame in, right?
Right.
And so again, being a little bit of a crazy person, I'm actually having my carpenter build the same exact door specs and put it back.
Well, I'll tell you, and I think I might have mentioned this to Nick, is that this would have had a piece of beveled glass in it. They always had a piece of beveled glass. Okay. It's cheaper to do beveled than it used to be.
Okay.
Back when I first moved here and people would have their front doors smashed out by vandals, or because the house had just been abandoned for so long, they would just put a plain piece of glass in because it was more expensive. But now I think it's actually,
so it would have
considering inflation, it's a lot.
This edge right here would just be that little bevel.
Yeah, and it really makes a difference from the street. It really looks good.
That part's an easy decision. Just because my guy is building a new door, I'm gonna strip these off, take them down, reuse the three, and then he's gonna build. Since this is all so destroyed over the years, this is all gonna get redone. And
nice.
We'll have a new threshold, and it's going to be stain grade, so we're going to stain inside and out. We're going to do oak floors here, and then we're going to stain. Everything will get stained, so there'll be a few grades of stain.
Nice.
Into the house, leading into the house.
This will be stained as well.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yep.
That'll look good. Now, this right here is your original pattern for your trim,
and that is getting staved.
this is all really pretty, and a lot of times, you know what the word, the phrase book matched means? That means that they would cut a piece of lumber, and when they were making the trim, they would sell it with both sides cut, so this was the mirror image of this grain. And sometimes you do find that. And as well as this house was built, you may find that on this doorway.
Yeah, so this is all going to...
And did any of this have any of the original still left at all?
So what was really...
That's too bad.
So this is the part of the house that kind of broke my heart, was that there was like nothing left in here. Someone had turned the house into like their version of a fourplex.
Right.
And
can you imagine, too, 4 apartments?
Yeah, and then each
Mine
door...
had 2, and it was tiny, my first house.
Each door had padlocks on it.
Yeah,
and,
mini splits.
Yeah, it was there was no air conditioning. It just had the mini, mini splits up on the walls. And I was so... Like, I got on the inside, and I was like, I don't get to... So I had to, like, okay, you know what? This is going to come in with passion. So we will do the entire house in nail down, 3/4 inch. We're going to go red oak.
Nice.
Through the whole house, up the stairs.
Wow.
There'll be no carpet.
Lovely.
The only tile will be in the master bathroom and the upstairs bathroom.
Oh, cool.
So that's it.
Cool.
That's the only tile that you'll have in this house.
Yeah.
The rest will be all nailed down wood.
Nice. Lovely.
So my carpenter is doing everything custom, right? So we were just going to do, unless, again, this coming from someone who understands the era a little bit more than I do, but this was going to be the squared, recessed with the quarter round bevel, right?
Right.
Then these posts were just going to go to the sill plate of the step. And then I was just going to do them square.
Right, and that's fine.
Yeah.
And in fact, I told Nick that if you're doing this, you can actually do what's called a box staircase, where this piece goes up like this. It's like that, and then you only have to cut all of your stair rails the same length. So if you do them this way, 1, 2, 3, you're cutting 3 different lengths.
So I have him doing it. I have him doing it to the floor, but that was only because I felt like that was proper.
Well, make sure that. And it's proper either way. You find both in fair amount of houses this era and before and after. But you want to make sure that when you put your handrail here, that it goes above where those are going to be.
Yep.
Make sure you do that, because you could, and it looks like it probably will, because you'll wrap over this bottom step with your newel, with your post, and then you can have your handrail go exactly about where this one is.
And it's going to be a custom milled wooden, and I'm going to stain the handrail, and then I'm going to paint the stickets, the sticks.
We did that in a house, and it turned out really nice.
So this will be a stained handrail up, and then going up and wrapping around, because we're leaving the office. We're calling this the office, and it's going to have the same. So when you walk in, you'll see.
That's gorgeous. That's just beautiful. A big open staircase like that is a wonderful. Not just a wonderful feature inside an old house, but it's a great selling point. I mean, it's a real focal point.
So you're opening up that door, and this is going to be the first thing you see.
Yeah. And then the kitchen is going to have a stained island.
Nice.
And then cabinets, floor to ceiling, painted. There will be a custom Vent-A-Hood that's stained over the range. The fridge will be in the left corner. And then you're just kind of like an L kitchen and the stained island here in the middle.
Nice.
And all custom made specifically for this.
That'll be lovely.
Another thing that these houses didn't have was storage. There was just at least in here.
Now, do you know why they didn't? Because in the early tax days, they taxed houses on the number of doors. And a closet was considered a room. You were not taxed by square footage. You were taxed by the number of rooms and or doors. Do you know how in the Old South, have you ever seen those long windows that go out to a porch and they open from the bottom? Because they could use that as a window and use that as a door, but they weren't taxed on the door. So they would tax by the number of doors, thinking that doors lead into a room. They changed that to the number of rooms, but still considered a closet or room if it was over a certain size. When the bungalow era was about 1910, 1911, they started taxing in different ways, and people started building bigger closets.
This is going to be a hidden door.
Right, nice.
With falling into the deco piece, and this, so they'll be able to put storage. You know, anything they want can go under there.
Nice.
And then Nick actually found that attic space up there, and we're putting a hidden door to it so that they have insulated attic space. Because this house doesn't have an attic because it's 2-story, but so they'll have extra, again, suitcases, whatever, Christmas decorations, just storage, right? There's
absolutely
no storage. Also, no laundry.
No.
Right? So
in the old days, it would when people finally got washing machines, they put them in the garage.
Yes.
And
it was actually out there.
Oh, was it?
Yep.
Yeah.
And so we made this, is going to be a powder bath, and then I'm designing, the laundry will be on the back wall there, but it'll be hidden behind similar style cabinets to match. So it'll be like a cabinet facade for your front loaders, and then a wood shelf over it.
Nice. I told Nick this was interesting to find this in here, inside this room, and I think if we go back to the 1951s, this may have still been, this could have been an entry off the side street. Most houses that were on a corner had an entry off the side street.
Okay.
And this would have been where they brought the coal and the ice.
Makes sense.
And so they would deliver it into a little room, and that's why you have beaded board, because this would have been outside.
Yes.
And that's real interesting that this is in here. I mean, this was probably, half of this was probably outside at one point.
That makes sense, almost like from this line where it stops over, you know, or something.
Yeah.
It was it was just very unique.
Yeah. Anyway, it does have the beaded board there. That's really
because
cool.
they even have the exterior siding on this side of this interior wall up in that gap area there.
Oh yeah. So So this was the delivery spot.
So it could have been.
It would have had a screen door, and there would have been a door here, and the screen door would have opened, and they would deliver. And your refrigerator would usually be out here on the screen porch.
Okay.
Because it had to have a pan under it for the ice to drip through, and that way they could just throw it out, the water out.
Just get rid of the water. Yeah.
So
because they didn't have actually running refrigerators as we own. They were ice boxes.
They were ice boxes. Yeah. This needs to be said more and more, because the city of Fort Worth does not spend money on their historic preservation. We talk about it a lot.
Yeah.
We tout it in our history, but it's never been a priority. And so we have 1 1/2 employees for over, I believe it's over 7,000. No, it's at least 4,500 designated historic properties in the city of Fort Worth. I think it's more than that. We have more than Dallas, even though Dallas is bigger. We have more designated properties. They have a staff of like 4 or 5 people. I mean, some cities, like it's either San Antonio or Austin, they have 12. Houston has 5 or 6. We have 1 1/2.
Yeah.
And so he's overworked all the time too, but he has been
It explains why he's
so nice.
hard to get in touch with.
And and if I show him proof of something on a house somewhere else in the neighborhood, he's happy to use that as the proof that something might have been a certain way, or it's at least period.
What was heartbreaking was almost all the windows had been changed out to aluminum.
I remember.
And so it was just.
And you could have had decorative windows in this house, but probably not. They were probably all 1/1s. That was typical.
And so we went and showed them what we were putting in, and had them custom ordered and put here. And then, so we wanted to give a dedicated master and a dedicated ensuite and a dedicated walk-in closet.
That's great.
This actually was a back door as well. And he's like, we could close it up and make it the closet. So there was just a weird door there. And so the other interesting thing was running air conditioning. So getting HVAC into this house was a challenge for us.
You've had to do the double walls.
We did some double walls,
and you lose a tiny little bit of square footage, but it's worth it not to have any fur downs or bump outs.
That's
because they just look unbelievably
bad. It's a pet peeve. Yeah, it was a pet peeve
like this
of mine. So I refused to put fur downs.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I'm, if I walk into the master bath area, one of the things that I'm doing is we're doing spray foam insulation. So the house will be spray foamed. So you're going to get like a super high energy efficiency.
This is going to be a lot better insulated than a lot of them. When you have houses that a lot of these were plaster walls, this probably was. I don't know if you took out walls, or were they solid board?
They were just the shiplap.
They were the shiplap. Okay.
Yeah. So like what's over this.
So some of the older ones are shiplap
here,
like that, shiplap, and then most of the ones we've redone, unfortunately, have been plaster, which is harder to deal with. And so you have your layer of plaster, and then you have your layer of the lathing that the plaster was smeared onto. And that actually created a lot of very good insulation. That's why people started doing plaster walls everywhere. But when you take it out, that insulation's gone.
It's gone.
And a lot of times it's just too much trouble to take that all down on all the exterior walls and insulate them on. So we've blown it in and it hadn't worked as good. So doing it this way, where all the walls are exposed.
We had to open.
That's really
there
great.
was so much wood that the labor and the time to cut a hole and blow it in, and then you wouldn't know if you got it all the way down here. And no one would know, right?
And my old house had the X blocks.
Yep.
And all going up. So I remember we tried to do that way.
There was no
on my walls, and we couldn't. So we had to tear the entire interior
This house
wall.
is so structurally sound now, compared to what we encountered. It blows my mind that we still even have to prove some stuff to the city. Like the inspector asked about a beam upstairs, and I was like, this house is 500% more structurally sound than when I touched it to begin with. Like it was falling apart. And now we've rebuilt it. I mean, you can see all the new wood and stuff. I've done many burn houses. This when you go upstairs and you look, there's no, I could usually tell where it started and where it went and where it got its hottest. The fire made zero sense to me, and I'm obviously not a fire professional, but I've just done enough to know it started here and worked its way that way. It was very weird.
Well, and when it was vacant, you don't know if there could have been more than one fire, because there was a time in Fairmount all through the 80s when some of these were quote unquote crack houses. They had people they had squatters, and different squatters would fight over a house, and some would be living in the upstairs part, and
I got the
different people
upstairs,
they
you got
didn't
the
know.
downstairs.
I got the upstairs, you got the downstairs, and they would start fires in the winter in the middle of a room to keep warm. Literally just build a fire in the middle of the room and sit around it and think,
we're in a wood house.
We're in a wood house.
Yeah,
that's not going to be a problem.
No, why would that be a problem?
Fine.
With as hard as the historic districts are to work with, one this size, I would have been, in a weird way, I wouldn't have been as excited to do it if it was small.
Yeah.
I only wanted the challenge because it was a 2-story. Because I'll never do another one, but it was a 2-story, so it was significantly more exciting because I had more square footage. I had more that I could. If this was just a single-story house and I wound up, this master is the entire width of the house. So to be able to give someone a historic home to historic standards with modern features like a laundry area and a large master with an ensuite with double sinks and a stand-up shower and a walk-in closet.
Yeah.
I was like, there aren't probably many houses in here that are going to have at least this back half of the house.
Well, yeah, and most of the 2 stories never had a bedroom downstairs, which people want. They want the master downstairs, and they always had, just really it was a pattern of your entry, parlor, kitchen, dining.
And this back portion of the house had the kitchen was kind of pseudo right here, and it was basically they went to Home Depot and put the Formica counter, Formica kitchen up, and it was this wall. That was all it was, and I was like,
and 2-story houses, oddly enough, have smaller kitchens in Fairmount historically than 1-story. I don't know why, but it's the case every time. It's just a little boxy square kitchen in a big 2-story house. It doesn't matter how big the 4 is or whatever. The kitchen is small in most cases. Then they would sometimes in the 50s and 60s knock the wall through and window in a screen porch that was usually added onto the back of the house.
Which could have been this Which could have been this right here.
Right. And that was real typical too, to have a screen porch added on, particularly after 1918.
And that was part of where I went because this is all just rotten siding, but newer, just the sheets of siding.
Yeah.
And so we went and again did the custom 105 around and the brick facade down and underneath, because I wanted the whole house to not feel like it had this weird add-on.
Right.
One of the things that you said in the email was oh God, please save the floor. And like I said, someone had went and they painted on the second floor. They put down plywood, and then I know Nick had talked to you about this. The porch, they drew the lines to make it look like it was the shiplap. They did the same thing on the second floor to make it look like it was the 3-inch wood floor.
The tongue and groove,
And and it was just so bad. We went and put all new, and then again we're going to go with nail down, not glue down. We're not going to do engineered wood. The entire house will be oak.
Just make sure on that balcony that you have it very well sealed.
Would you like to go see the balcony?
Yeah, let's go look at it real
Before you
quick.
got here, that was literally the topic of discussion because
okay.
we couldn't figure out what to do with it. So we have two schools of thought here.
Mm-hmm. You've got a drain here. And that's wonderful.
wanted to, but the inspector does not like it. So I'll tell you what.
Why doesn't he like it?
Says it's too high.
Well,
but
you put it high to put flooring around it.
yes, and the problem is we can't lower it because of the ceiling of the downstairs.
Right.
Right.
But you still will have a taper to it.
So my plumber wants to make this lightweight, like concrete. Mm-hmm. So this would be a concrete. So you basically imagine a shower pan, a giant shower pan.
Yeah.
I was going to put a
about.
linear drain, a 36-inch linear drain. This way, kind of like just fell into it. It was nice and clean. This will all get done to the same railing downstairs. Mm-hmm. You're saying I could do bigger posts here, so I could do bigger posts.
And when you do your box posts, you do want the railing high enough to pass code and be about like here, but you just don't want it too high.
So one of the things I was like, I want to do it to code, but I want to do it to like the minimum, and that's because if this is the office and someone puts a desk in here and they're sitting here working, I don't want them to look out these clean windows and then just be blinded right at a railing.
Yeah, you don't want it anywhere near this high.
Yeah, so I want
so
I think there was 32.
it shouldn't be a problem because there are exceptions made because it's a historic house.
Yeah.
And oftentimes what happened, the railing would come like this, and then it would actually go like this.
So that's what we were doing.
So the posts would go small, the spindles would go smaller and smaller and be straight across.
That's exactly how I was designing it.
That's perfect.
So that it would all be the same height. I didn't want it to come up.
And you really don't want it any higher than about, well, I'm 6 feet exactly.
Yeah.
So whatever that is, about 3.5 feet. And 3 feet, because you do have this, remember, 36 inches is code.
Yeah.
So you could go with just a very short railing up here.
Yep.
And then taper it off down here, and that would look really good and match the downstairs. That'd be perfect. And I can see it terminating into a couple of nice square bases, and make that base so that the railing will fit
right
into the base.
And then just do the
and
round
one thing
post,
I wanted to tell you, speaking of railings,
the round post from there up,
is I know you've already done the front one, but the bottoms were put this way. The bottom rail on the railing was set vertically.
Okay.
So it would shed water, and all the original ones, instead of being like that to catch water, it would be like this, and that would help save the bottom of each post. And then, but if you didn't want to go to the trouble to modify that, I understand. This is fine, but what I would do to dress it up just a little, and I would match it here, and I told this to Nick, was maybe a 2x2 in between the 2x4s, and that's a common pattern. And that makes it look like you just don't have framing as a railing. And the spindles are what we call the balusters, because they're not spindles, technically a turned piece of wood. The balusters were closer together in those days.
Okay.
They weren't really farther apart.
I didn't necessarily give the framer too many rules to go by, because when I drove around to try to get my inspiration for it, because what was here was like the Home Depot plastic.
Right.
I was looking at everybody's, and there's one that runs left and right down there, and that's too farmhouse. Yeah.
Well, that's very Craftsman. That's too Craftsman for this house.
Right.
This would have had vertical balusters.
So that's what I was thinking, and then I didn't want to go, because everything is really thick. When you look at the front door, the casing around it is really thick, and then around the window. So I was like, if we went with a thin, I just didn't want it to look too thin.
Well, I think what you've done is fine, but I think it'll look just fantastic if you do it's a 2x4. If you do a 2x2 and a 2x2 in between the 2x4s, that's
we could have them even rebuild it.
Well, that pattern is actually a really good-looking one, and I can find some pictures around the neighborhood of that. I mean, it's not common, but it's uncommon enough to look special.
Yeah.
But it's not. It's definitely historic.
At this point,
and that could look really cool, and that way you wouldn't have to rebuild the whole railing.
At this point, with how much expense we're going through, I want the final product to be there.
Yeah.
But this, the decision we were making right before you got here was to make this like a lightweight concrete shower pan style. So all this will be rubbered, and this will come off. We'll rubber it this way.
I mean,
hurricane
this
winds.
doesn't necessarily have to come off. As long as it's painted, it'd be fine.
Well, we're gonna go and rubber behind it.
Oh, okay.
And then put it back.
Oh, okay.
This way, it's completely waterproof.
Right.
And then this base will be what I would consider a sanded concrete. So it'll just be I wanted to go with the tongue and groove decking.
And you know what?
The problem
and the
that
thing
we're
is,
running
they didn't
with.
ever have those on the balconies. They in the old days in this neighborhood, it's mostly roofing or tin.
Okay.
And then on fancier houses that you see, like in Ryan Place, it was tile. The entire thing was that fancy, like a real beautiful hexagonal tile with a pattern in it, different colored pattern.
Okay.
And
So going with the texture.
Going with the concrete is fine.
Okay.
It's fine. And if you can stain the concrete.
it will get color.
Yeah, it's
color
mixed
match.
in.
Yes,
it's mixed
yes,
into
yes,
the concrete.
yes.
Yeah, if you do that, it'll be fine.
Okay.
It'll be fine.
Perfect.
And I don't think, with the balcony being this small, I don't think that's important visually. I think it's more important.
And you're not going to
make sure you don't have leaks into the room.
So
below.
that's because it'll cause structural problems for the bigger part of downstairs.
Yeah.
The best thing I could do is literally design it as if it was going to have constant running water, like a shower.
Yeah.
But not look.
I think it'll be fine.
And
And this is going to be perfect.
Yep.
And the railing, and then you do the box post with a fatter column on top. It's going to look great.
This door.
It's going to look great.
It was this is the door that was there, and it's so short. I mean, it's a 5-foot door. So I'm actually same thing. My cabinet guy, my carpenter is rebuilding it.
Wow.
And is going to make it a 6-foot door.
Nice.
So it'll be the same exact thing, but a 6-foot door to be fit there.
Perfect.
Everyone kind of came through and raised everything up. And so this is unfortunately like, so we're just going to build.
Well, in the old days, and it's been proven over and over again, people were shorter.
Yeah.
Kitchen countertops were 30 inches, not 36. Doorknobs were like way down here.
Yeah.
And over the years, people raised that stuff up. You have to. I mean, at least countertops, because you can't bend over. I mean, the old pedestal sinks, we always used to get them and put them back in the bathrooms, but I would build like a raised bottom out of the flooring and paint the same color of the floor so you don't see it, but I would raise them up 4 or 5 inches because people are just not.
That was another thing.
My great-grandfather was 5'3".
We couldn't even,
5'3".
there was no, I was hoping there was an original tub of some sort. There was not. So we got, we had to go back with modern tub to a degree, But yeah, I mean, everything that you're seeing is been thought about to match historic, but then yet still give someone, again, modern HVAC with actually insulated duct, and then this will all get spray foamed so they actually, the insulation is going to be
really well insulated.
Really well insulated for future generations. Like these were all aluminum windows, and it was really interesting. There was this window casing was here. It was an aluminum window, and then right under it we found another what looked like. There was another window under it. What looks like it matched the exact same frame. And Nick was like, "Why don't we put 2 windows?" And I was like, "Because it's not what I was given, right?" And Nick's like, "I bet there was a whole window there." And it could have been. It could have been a double window in the staircase.
It could have been. It's not likely. I think what you would have had, if anything, and of course this isn't the original staircase configuration, but usually they had a window at the middle landing somewhere.
This area where the bathroom was, and you could see.
By the way, this is a beautiful big landing. This is lovely.
And this is where we gave them attic space.
Right.
Yep. So
perfect.
I tried to make this as wide as possible and as usable as possible. The doors, again, functionally opening nice and wide.
Yeah. Now, again, you could build.
It's already going in.
You could build a window seat here.
It's already going in. In fact, Danny, my project manager, gave us the idea. We're going to do cubby storage straight across.
Yep.
But this section will open from the top up and have a stained piece of wood.
Nice.
And then what's in the front facing here will just be like little doors.
You hardly ever see a 2x6 or a 2x8 ceiling joist. That's very well
And
built
everyone told me that I needed to go through and take the 2x6s that are here under this and make them 2x12s. And I was like, I am not taking the second story apart.
No. Now, if you were to turn an attic into a bedroom,
Yes.
they would make you go to at least a 2x10.
Right.
You know how usually the first and second story walls line up in a house?
Not in this one.
Not in this one.
Yes.
And that's why I'm thinking maybe a builder built this
Yeah.
one, because they usually will not do what normal builders do. They actually experiment in their own houses.
Yeah, I want to. If I can turn back time, if I was
Yeah.
Cher and I could turn back time,
Yes.
I would go find the builder who built this
Yeah.
house and slap them, because it had there wasn't a right angle. There's not a wall that made sense.
Yeah.
I could point out so many things, not on camera, that that I mean, we ratchet strapped. This house had bowed out.
Yeah.
And we did a come along to tie the house back together.
Wow.
It was just it was like a blob.
Yeah, we've had to do that.
And I couldn't fathom that they allowed it to get that bad.
I'm telling you, if you ever do another one, you said you wouldn't, but it wouldn't necessarily be this bad. They're not all in this bad a shape.
I have 35 projects right now, so this is one of 35 that will drive me nuts until I'm done with it. But this takes the passion and the foresight to be able to keep coming in here week after week and okay, let's do this. So this is something else. One of the inspectors said we had to paint. We had to kill all the rafters, all the wood up here. So we just had the painter come and kills it all to kind of encapsulate anything that could have been there. But we did raise this up as much as I possibly could. It sat down very similar to
That's nice.
this area. You could kind of see where the
Usually
nail holes
upstairs
were.
ceilings were only 8 feet, if that,
Yep.
and then downstairs were the high
And
ceilings.
this, I even
So this looks great.
This was where this slope came down was all the way to here. Mm-hmm. And,
wow.
And we fixed it so that at least we had room for the door to swing.
Yeah.
So again, just pushing that out, we now have a usable bedroom.
Yeah.
So I could have this redone if it's that important, because I feel like if you slipped a 1, would it not be too close?
Just a 2x2 right there, and you still have an inch in between. And if you look at a lot of the actual, what we have too many of in Fairmount, like your next door neighbor and some of them, is not original railings that
Right.
people look at and they think, oh, I'm going to copy that.
Yeah.
But if you look at the original
didn't do that.
ones, I can send you pictures too. I can send you some images of that. But there are really good ones, and the spindles, the balusters were always closer together.
Okay.
Now a house of this era, because you have these big Craftsman type posts, may have had a big wide top piece. It may have had big wide 1x6 balusters. It could have had anything. We just don't know because we don't have any pictures of it. But this looks good, and you've put a wider piece on top. I mean, I've seen some of the flippers just what looks like 2x4 framing. It just looks like framing.
Yeah.
But this looks good.
And it's got the
And you have a piece up here.
you know,
that's
up
nice.
here
Yeah.
so that it
Yeah.
right, so
Right.
so that you almost look like you have a wider face.
And another thing you could do, if you wanted to, if you add that, and then just run a big piece of cove or quarter
Like the
round
quarter
over
round?
here, looks really sharp, really
Like,
dresses it
almost finish it out like you have in here.
up. Yeah, it's just another piece of quarter round, but under there, and it looks really, really sharp. It looks really good. So this looks nice, and if you did just 2x2, try it,
On
over
the
here
side
on the
and see how it
side and
looks.
see how it looks. Send me a picture.
Yeah.
But I think it's going to look really, really nice. I think
Okay.
you'll like it a lot.
Yeah.
And again, I can send you some images of some original railings, but I've seen them where they're wide, skinny, and I drive all over the country, and I zero in on all the old houses and catalog in my brain. Oh, look how they did that, or look how that was originally. And so
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of railings like that.
I like it. All right.
yeah.
We'll have to make that change.
Yeah.